in them that are making their way to come, that we may fellowship together through this session, that we are going to experience great breakthroughs, divine favor, anointing, and blessings. We give all the glory, honor, and worship to you. For we pray this in the name of Jesus Christ, we pray and believe. Amen. Let us appreciate our worship team. Yes. You can kindly have our seat. Yes. Beth.
Thank you. Praise God. Praise God. Good afternoon. I'll first request those seated on this side and this side to move to the middle. Kindly. Let's fill the middle parts, then we can get right into it. How is everyone this afternoon? Umetulia. Are you guys okay? Why do you look so tired? And we are just beginning. Thank you, each of you, for coming. How many people are looking forward to the session we have today and what we are discussing? Who can tell me what we are discussing? Maybe we are all here and we don't even know why we are here. Who can tell me what our topic today is? Anyone? You know, when you answer the person who is at the front, most of the time they have a gift to give. So who can tell me what we are talking about today and what they are looking forward to? Anyone? The beauty of having the microphone, you're able to choose someone to give it to. So I'll begin here. What are you looking forward to in our session today?
Well, from the previous announcements, I can say something related to Shortlisted. And what I'm looking forward to as a young professional is how to face the hardships out there.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else who will tell us what they are looking forward to before we get into our exercise? A lady preferably. And if I know you, you are in trouble. Because possibly you're the one getting this microphone. So let me bring it here. What are you looking forward to about today's session, having seen what it is about?
I'm looking forward to hear more about recruitment, selection, onboarding, such stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. So we hope that today's session will be good. And before we begin, I want us to do just a short icebreaker. I want you to stand. Everyone, please stand. I know you are standing, but please stand again. I want you to go to someone who you do not know personally. And first of all, when you look at them, just guess the career they may be in. Then we'll be able to see who has picked someone and picked their right career. So go to someone and let's see if you're able, just by how they look, you're able to figure out what career they are in. And if I see you going to someone you know, I know who you know. And you can give a reason why you think they're in that career. When you're finished with that one, you move to a second person. At least speak to 3 people. Speak to 3 people. Then whoever will have guessed that person's career, I'll have a gift for the one who guessed right. And please don't confirm to them which one you are so that we can see, we can gauge. You can move to the next person. You can move to another person and just by how they look, we can try and guess which career they are in. And don't go to someone you know. Stacy, don't go to someone you know. But no one wants to come and ask me and guess my career. Kim kona jokes. Don't confirm. We'll confirm. Who thinks they got it right? Who is confident that they've guessed right? No one is, you're confident you've guessed right? Okay. Anyone else so that the mic can come? Who else thinks they've guessed right? Anyone else who thinks they've guessed right, then we can confirm? There's someone who's raised their hand in confidence that they've guessed it right. Let's hear. And you give a reason why you thought that person is in that career. So I'll start with a lady, then we get a gentleman.
I see what I guessed.
Yes. Okay. And why?
And why? Okay, I guessed that Beth is a lawyer. She just looks so put together. You know, learned feathers. The way they even dress, the way she's articulating herself. So that's why I thought she's a lawyer.
Do you think you're right?
Maybe. I think so, like 95%.
Half the people here know my career. Is she right? No, unfortunately, I'm not in law, but I know what I can pursue next. So, Victor, learned friend coming up. A gentleman who thinks they guessed right what their neighbor is. Anyone? No gentleman is confident they guessed the right thing. That one says he guessed the right thing. Here is the microphone. You can pass to him. Tell us why.
But now she's objecting.
What did you guess and why?
She's in a medical field.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
You think she's in the medical field. Why?
Because I think I judged rightly by observing appearance.
How do people in the medical field look?
One, the way she responded immediately I approached her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very calm.
Okay.
And attentive, looking forward to see what I'm about to say or how I feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kwa sure bado ni kazi ulikuwa unaona. Anyone else? We can take our seats. So, before you take your seat, actually, the person you guessed, can you ask them if you are right? So you see why. You see now, in the near future, I'm pursuing law. Now I know I look like a learned friend. So very soon, I'll start it. So today's session is about, it's called Shortlisted. And I want someone who is courageous enough to tell us the worst rejection email you have received from a HR practitioner. The worst one you have received. Anyone? You can tell us. You know I'm also taking feedback, being in HR, so I know what not to write. Yes, Victor. Yeah.
Praise God. Yeah, so the worst one that I received, I think, I was applying for a remote role. I'm into tech. So you see, we always admire to work in the Silicon Valley. So I saw a role online and then I applied. I think the moment I just clicked submit, after 1 minute later, there was a rejection.
So you think they did not even read it?
Yes, it was just like an automatic rejection. So.
Wow. HR, let's do better. Can I get a lady who can tell us? Anyone else who can tell us? You know, I'll tell the one with the mic to pick on someone. You can pick on someone, Edith. A lady.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I don't think I've gotten any rejection email that's off the usual. It's always we regret to inform you, but this position has already been filled, or we already have a right candidate in mind, and so on and so forth. So that's the usual. Nothing weird.
Okay, thank you. So today's session, basically, we are talking about how to position yourself for visibility and branding so that you're able to be picked, and what it is, why sometimes you apply for jobs, so many of them, but you never get a reply. And to help us with that, we'll have a panel. So I want to invite our panelists to join us. And so I'll go one by one. Our first panelist is Pastor Angie Obwaka. I don't want to give a breakdown of who they are. We'll do that when they are seated here, so we can welcome Pastor Angie. Karibu sana. Then our second panelist is someone we have had before. We have Brighton. Karibu sana. And finally, our third panelist is Stanley Alwadi. Karibu sana. You can just come up and have a seat. There's a mic right next to you. So as part of beginning, we'll have the panelists introduce themselves. You know, I know naturally we are used to introducing people with their very many things, but I've realized sometimes there's something, maybe only them can tell us about it, and we'll start with the ladies. So, Pastor Angie, how are you?
I am fine, thank you.
Good. Karibu sana.
Asante.
You can start by telling us a bit about yourself, what you do.
All right.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. The feedback seems a bit loud. Can you hear me clearly? Oh, all right. Okay. So my name is Angie Obwaka. I wear many different hats. Today is Sunday. I am a pastor today. And on many other days, but I serve as a pastor with CITAM and Christ is the Answer Ministries in Kangundo Road right now. I also have a background and training in HR, so I do HR consulting. I lead a consulting firm where I do individual coaching and building up of people in their careers, whether it is CV writing, interview prep, and everything to get them the opportunities they deserve. And I also help organizations to be able to recruit the right people, to keep the right people, everything from recruitment to separation as well. I also do content creation, and I'm a mom. I'm a really cool person, and I love people.
You do a lot. Maybe you have more than 24 hours in a day. So Stanley, yes. Tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Praise God, church. Praise God once more. My name is Alwadi Stanley. I'm a HR profession. I happen to have worked with the UN. I started with UN Habitat and then moved to UNDP. I'm also currently consulting with the Ansoff Consulting Firm, which we deal with a lot of recruitment. I see IT consultancy, board evaluation. We deal with part of recruitment. We also deal with in various sectors from banking to SACCOs to schools and such like. And also I'm privileged to serve in 2 boards, one being the United Nations SACCO board, and also a company called Wana Mataifa board. Thank you.
Thank you. Brighton, hi. Karibu tena. You've been with us before.
So I suppose I'm not new to most of the faces.
Yeah. But you can tell us a bit about yourself, what you do.
So it looks like I'm the not HR. But these 2 are HRs.
Well, actually, it's the 3. I'm in HR as
You're
well.
in HR? I'm the odd one out. I'm not surprised. Brighton Kidendu. I My background is engineering, but over the years I've had several pivots doing different things. Today, my actual core sits at the intersection of strategy, innovation, transformation, and technology. Currently, the organization I work with, I support in the digital build space, digital transformation initiatives, innovations, and projects, large scale, and mostly just transformation work around that. As I mentioned, so I've pivoted through technology, strategy, innovation, transformation, so sometimes it's mixed up, yeah? But beyond that, I do many things. I work with the tech startup ecosystem in the continent, sit in a few boards of startups. I've also been doing mentorship, and that led me into lecture halls for the last 4 years with JQuat. What else do I do? I'm a bit low-key poet. Occasionally in my head, I play violin very well. Kwa ground may be different, but I'm happy to be here.
Now that you're a poet, you'll end for us with a poem. It's only fair.
We have better ones here.
No, it's only fair. Because you've declared it, we have to hear it. So just to get our panel started, I'll just have a few quick fire questions. And it's just a one-word or one-sentence answer. So one career advice you hear often that you secretly disagree with. I'll start with you, Stanley. One word or one sentence?
Follow the process. Trust the process.
Oh, trust the process. Angie?
Education is the only thing that matters.
Brighton?
Just do the work. The work will speak for itself. But truth is, somebody has to give it the mic for it to speak.
Wow, okay. Another one. One thing that makes you quietly doubt a professional. Quietly doubt. That one I'll start with HR. One thing that makes you quietly doubt a professional.
If all they talk about is their qualifications and where they work.
Okay. Stanley? Consistency. I'll ask for help with a mic here. I don't know if media team, Brenda? I seem to have a problem with one mic. Brighton?
Fluff. There are people when they speak, it's just fluff. So many things, but nothing in particular. Long CVs, nothing in there.
Okay. This is an interesting one. What's your notion, being that we're in church? Pastor Angie, resign and trust God, or secure the next offer first?
Trust God and then either resign or secure the next job. But be wise. Trust God and be wise. They don't have to be separate.
They don't have to be separate. Yeah. Yes. Stanley?
I'll say secure this next job first and then resign, unless it affects your mental health or your well-being.
Okay.
I think I'll say depending on how bad it is, but trust God by default. But if it's not really bad, don't enter resignation and expect God to be your charity department.
Wow. Okay. I think that's an interesting one. Now I want to speak about LinkedIn. From the audience, how many feel like LinkedIn is just an upgraded version of Instagram? I'll raise my hand first. Anyone who feels that way? And it's a brag site. So what do we think about LinkedIn? Stanley, if I could begin with you. What do you think about LinkedIn? Has it become a brag place? Or is it just an Instagram with a bit more it's a bit more structured?
Thank you. LinkedIn is a professional platform where you meet profession, you get to interact with people in the industry that you're in. But at the same time, I've never seen a point where you just stay in LinkedIn without upgrading yourself or putting out there your work if you're in content creation and then expect a recruiter to recruit you. So it is a professional platform where recruiters go for talent. If you put, you upgrade yourself, you put it up to date with no fluff. And again, depending with which job application, you have to apply at the end of the day. Unless they just want a search deployment and they just run through LinkedIn and they want your skills and they can see your work already.
Okay. Brighton, what are your thoughts? Are you active on LinkedIn?
Whoever is not is always disadvantaged. I think we live in a world where LinkedIn is usually the primary place where recruiters would go to. And I've seen it even when you're hiring. It's usually the place you land to do your search before you even go to the other spaces. Of course, in addition to referrals, etc. So it's essential, in my view. But of course, it has to be complemented with other things. So is it TikTok or Instagram with maybe addressing different needs, but yes.
Okay. Angie, and also as a recruiter, also you can tell us, this LinkedIn, the premium, the paid one, is it really advantageous or are just people just paying and it's not helping? Because in all honesty, it's not cheap. And we're told, they keep giving you adverts that LinkedIn Premium will help you be more visible. How true is that?
Well, the advantages of LinkedIn Premium, but I think like was already said, if you are just on LinkedIn, just to say you're on LinkedIn, you're not using it well, you're not making the connections, you are not updating, you're not advancing yourself with the certifications there, even the premium won't help. You'll just be paying more to get more nothing. So just maximize. If all you can afford is the free LinkedIn version, use that one to the max. And then, if you now have maxed that out and there's nothing else you can be able to get from there, then you can invest in premium.
Okay. Okay, I think we'll start pivoting into our conversation today. And when we speak about, just from the HR lens, positioning, visibility, and branding. And I think the first thing I'd want us to address is many of us send applications in thousands sometimes, then you get ghosted. So there's that frustration of I've been applying for jobs. Why is it that people get ghosted? Because sometimes I know even among us being young professionals, you hear someone say, I've been sending out applications, I don't even get an interview, even one. So maybe we can start by addressing that. What could be the problem? Is it how they apply, or is it their documents, or what happens? If we could talk a bit about that ghosting that comes when you've sent applications. And Stanley, now that you are in HR, what happens? Why don't people get rejects? It's just you sent applications but never a reply. Never a reject, never an interview. It's just quiet. What could be the problem?
Thank you. The first thing that happens when this ghosting happens, it's maybe you've not filled your application correctly. So it becomes quote-unquote junk to the receiving end, so it will just be put aside. So you'll not receive any feedback. Second will be there are some checks that are going on that happens on the receiving side as well. Third will be developing new developments. Case in example, there was a recruitment that was going on and there is something that has come up that is urgent to the organization. Case in point, you are doing a recruitment for an IT person and it's in the hospital and there is, or a health facility and there is Ebola. So they'll stop this recruitment. They focus on surge deployment to push, deploy medics to the field to support that. And then this will come either later or never do happen because now resources have been redeployed to other urgent matters.
Okay, Brighton, what are your views? Have you ever applied for a job many years ago, I believe, and been ghosted?
Even to date. My employees should not hear that. I think it's in several parts, in my view. The reality is today we have so many of us who are looking for jobs. I think it's the reality that we are living in. And I've seen so many scenarios where a recruiter would, once you make an application, either they send an automated response that says, we are receiving so many applications, so if we do not hear from us, they know that that has gone. Some will give it time, say within 3 weeks or so. Others would not. I think that's a reality. Just appreciate that, hey, that's the case. And we know we send hundreds of applications, and some of them we forget. Even when you get invited for interviews, you're like, which role was that? So that's that. The number two, the other reality because of that is recruiters also receive many applications. And now we have tools and systems, ATS and others, that does first screening before a human eye looks at those CVs or cover letters or applications. And what we're seeing most career coaches and HR advisors is how do you tailor your CV so that then it crosses through that system so that a human eye can have a look at it. And that's why we do a lot of that optimization both on LinkedIn, on cover pages and cover letters, on resumes and applications. So there's a reality around that. So because of that, then you get now those automated response. Somebody mentioned that application 1 minute later got a rejection. And that's a reality because also, if I'm receiving thousands of applications, I'm not going to go through all of them. So I have to use mechanisms that optimize that work. So that's also another reality. But then also, I've also seen scenarios where, in my view, the recruiters can do better. I've experienced that where you make an application and you know this role cannot have 1,000 applicants. Okay, maybe not. But you expect, even when you've gone through, because you can make an application or even go through the interviews and somewhere they disappear. And I've had a scenario like that where guys, you come, you make an application, you probably do the first interview, and the guys disappear. Then you follow up after 2 weeks, like, hey, we'll get back. And they disappear for a whole year. Different reasons, different things. Like one of my experience was the organization underwent a scenario. There was an acquisition that was happening, so there was a lot of things that were changing. So they froze that. But the expectation is, because you're a recruiter, you also want to know that as the person who is being hired. Remember when I'm going for an interview, try to establish whether I'm fit for your organization as much as you're establishing whether I'm, So I expect you to come back and say like, hey, we've put a freeze on this because of ABCD, or you've not done well on this, so we've progressed on other things. And if you're really good HR, constructive feedback, like, hey, you did well, but you can improve on 1, 2, 3 things. So yeah, so it's a constellation of many things. So those are maybe more.
Okay. Angie, what are your views?
Yeah, I think my thoughts were just where Brighton had mentioned. Sometimes it's a sheer volume. I have been guilty, even in the recent past, of ghosting people. And sometimes it's just the too many people to get back to. But just in addition, they've mentioned excellent points, but I think I'd say sometimes people or applicants they don't think through their application. So there's the alignment with let's say the keywords and the role. But sometimes some people, because you're so desperate for a job, you apply for everything in the organization. So I can see one application, this person has applied for front office. They have applied also for the HR position. Even IT, they're there. But how many times am I going to tell you no? But already first you've communicated to me that you don't know where you are, what value you're bringing. So I think to myself, and this is me being very vulnerable, this person, they need more help than I can give them at this point in time. And so let them just think about what they want to do. And so you can't do that for every single person. I think also sometimes it's also the fear, I think, in terms of going into a lot of detail with regards to why we have not progressed with you as a candidate, especially after we've done interviews, is the fear also sometimes of being sued or being taken to court. Anybody can feel nowadays, anybody can feel that is a discrimination. So I'd much rather even be vague in my feedback that, we found somebody, we're looking in a different direction, etc. But I agree, we definitely could do better, because if you're an applicant and somebody keeps you hanging, let's say you've already started the interview process, you talk 2 weeks, then they leave you hanging for 3 months, they come back, similar to a relationship. That's probably not somebody an organization you want to be plugged into and giving your time and value to.
Okay, and now that we've said, we are told a lot, positioning, you need, is your application is the problem. I've heard all of you mention the thing of, maybe it's your application that is the problem. And being in HR, sometimes someone will come and ask you, what is this positioning you're saying? I need to position myself. How does, what should my CV have? What should my application have? And sometimes, even when you tell someone, now everyone is trying to use AI even to just do their CVs. So now all CVs look the same. All of them, it's the same format, it's the same everything. So how can you advise us to how do I be seen? How do I get seen? What should be in my application? What makes me stand out? What is that thing that you see and you're able to see, this is a candidate I can shortlist for this interview? So how do I position myself to be seen? Stanley, internationally, how do I position myself to be seen?
I'll take it from two dimensions. One being an internal candidate and also being an external candidate. So being an internal candidate, this informs the issues to do with how are you, the working relationship that you have. Because in any organization, there is teamwork and how you position yourself. And you'll find, and I think in other aspects where there are people who are not qualified, but they are very loud in the organization because they are pushing themselves to a point of they want to be noticed for what they do, or, getting to the decision makers to have noticing them. Then the other thing will be taking up more tasks to provide solution, all right? Volunteering yourself to give an extra hand where maybe you can be noticed. From the other perspective, as an external candidate, where you're positioning yourself, one is the LinkedIn, where you're saying you have that leverage where you can already speak to the recruiter that I can do this by demonstrating I'm a digital content creator, this is my work, this is the link to my bio, this is the link. So someone can already see the work that you're doing compared to that person who will just apply and they've not demonstrated anything. So even if I'll apply and a recruiter has seen my LinkedIn and seen my skills and knowledge in a certain area, I stand a chance already. Yeah.
Okay. Brighton?
I think to add to what he said, it would depending on the level of career growth you are in. If I remember, for example, my very first role, I came in as an intern in one of the telcos. And I was young, I was not having much, so I would do my shifts from 7 to 4. And then after 4, I'd move to another team and go see what they do and hang around there. So there was this particular day, I moved because it was just across the opposite doors. So we used to sit on this side. So after my shift, I came to this side. And while I was there, I was being taught the different things they are doing. The head of that department walked in. And she was a very powerful lady. So, of course, when she walked in, the energy in the room felt different. And she came talking, and then she noticed that, oh, who are you? And, of course, I panicked because the power was oozing strongly. But the person I was sitting next to was like, oh, this is Brighton. He's interning in that department, but he just came here to see what we do. So I was taking him through this and that and that and that. And what I didn't know was that very moment defined my entry point into the corporate world after university. Because that experience, of course, so she said, oh, great. Also, what do you do? So we even had lunch one of the days after. But because of seeing that, offering myself to learn and putting myself out there, that gave me an opportunity to, now later on, they are hiring, I applied, like, there's that boy, has he applied? Yes. Interviews, I remember I even missed one of the interviews because we were doing exams in school. And when the HR was saying, like, oh, like, that boy is not in this list. It's like, he missed because of exams, like, no, let him come for the next interview. So I skipped some of them. But it was because of that. I demonstrated earlier on that I have hunger for knowledge. I want to learn. and I am willing to do what it takes to do that. Earlier in career, that's what really matters. Your willingness to learn, because you've not really built your credibility as much. But as you continue to progress beyond that, then there is, in my view, what I've seen work is now the relationships that you build. And those relationships are not what we're seeing today, where people are very strategic in the relationships because they want something. You see these networking events in Nairobi. Guys are just walking in and you're like, so like, hey, I do this, do you have a job? So people know that they're very fake and stuff. But those meaningful relationships, offering yourself to do this space, be in these spaces. Like I mentioned, I teach. And I do not teach because I'm being paid. I teach because it's something I enjoy doing. It's part of the mentorship. But if I'll just say, for example, in that teaching, I've met some of the students who've built startups, and while at that, then introducing them to different spaces gave me other opportunities for other things. And over time, I'm actually able to tie those dots, and like that opportunity I offered myself there has now translated to this value at this end. So it depends on where you are in your career, but that, yes.
Okay, Angie. When you say, we sent a question earlier, and there is the being stuck. I know as someone who does the CV writing and all the career coaching, when someone comes to you with that question of why am I not getting seen, what is the advice you give that person? They tell you have thousands of applications. Why can't I be seen? Why am I not getting the interviews? Or maybe I'm being called for interviews, but I'm not succeeding.
Yeah, I think that happens often. And I would ask them a number of questions. The very first one, I would ask them, so tell me, what is it you do now? What is it that you want to get into? Because sometimes it's that somebody doesn't understand what they want, and so because they don't know what they want, they're going for everything and anything. And so if you don't know what you want, you don't know what kind of roles you want to go for, you don't know what value you have, and you're not communicating that value. That value, once you understand, based on a number of things, maybe where I've worked, my education, the skills and strengths I have, just different things, the way you see the world, the way you engage, those things contribute to your own value. If I understand my value, then I know this is where I want to go. Okay, very good. You're clear about your value. Then secondly, the things that you are putting out there, are they communicating that value? Because somebody can be excellent when you meet them in person, but like I say, we're human beings, we're finite. I can only be in one place at a time. So unless the people that I'm pitching to, who I want to hire me, are in this room, then there are many other spaces where I want to get into where they're not hearing my voice. And so that's why you have things like CVs and cover letters. Is your CV, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, do they communicate that same exact value? Are they speaking for you in the same way you would speak for yourself if you were there? So if that is all done well, maybe you're getting into the different rooms. Maybe your issue is how you speak, how you pitch yourself, how you engage. Because some people are they fall apart in interviews. Interviews form part of the public speaking domain, and people are terrified of public speaking. But many people, their worst nightmare is going for an interview. They would much rather just sleep and wake up and bam, they've gotten the job. You want to fast and pray and you appear. The next day you have the job, but that's not how it works. You need to be able to develop the skill to interview well, and it's a skill. You can develop it. How do you converse in an actual interview? But then there's also the one-on-ones, the relationships that Brighton was talking about. Do you have the ability, on the off chance, even if you're not coming for an official interview, for example, here at CITAM, there are many, many fellowships, ministries, etc. There could be somebody in this room who is in the organization that you want to get into, right? There's men's ministry, women's ministry, safari groups, all these different platforms, CBF, where there are people who are already in the spaces you want to get into. Maybe you don't have the skill on how to do shorter pitches. How do you talk to people in a manner that communicates, this is what I do, this is what I can do for you, and not trying to get something out of them, but more sharing what you do. So if you don't have that skill, you'll have to wait until you have an interview to be able to do that. So I think I would engage them on all of those different phases to be able to see, okay, where there must be something that is not working, and that thing might need to be tweaked. Yeah.
I like that all of you are even going ahead to the question I had next. This networking thing, how do you crack this networking thing? Brighton, how do you crack this network? You know, everyone says you need to network. Then you come and tell us, networking does not mean you're going into a room thinking this one can give me a job. What is this networking thing and how do you crack it?
You know, first of all, I really struggle with it, to be honest. Because it's like you're walking into a space where you're self-promoting. And sometimes, I don't know, maybe I'm just too African on that space. You know, we're learning to be humble, don't shout too much. In my view, because I've seen it even in this Nairobi city particularly, today we even have expatriates networking communities. They meet, I don't know, on Thursday, some place, and different professionals having their own thing. What I've seen in my own experience, networking is where I'm able to demonstrate, this is what I do, but this is what I can solve for people. And it's very different. I mean, when you go to those cocktails and guys are coming, so what do you do? I'm Breton, I do ABCD, and then I ran through it, and then someone wondering. And that's why you see now people have specialized coaching on that space. So you're like, So I come and ask him like, so how is business? Or how is, and explain like, I think I have an idea of how we can help in that space. So this is what I do, or this is what we've done, or we've done this with this place. And I think that will be of benefit to you. You see, what I've done, I've not quoted my CV. I've just said, that problem that seems you have, there's a solution to it, and it's something I've done elsewhere. That's the approach I take. I go into these spaces, I tend to be the one listening, and because there are guys who come who like to talk, and then while at it, I'm like, aligned, not aligned, I think I have an idea of what can help, and then I'll tell, okay, so this is what we can do, etc. But broadly, back to the relationships, especially in your growth career, because you've built credibility, people have trusted you with opportunities, with responsibilities, and you demonstrated that you can be trusted to get things done. When you're getting into these networking spaces, chances are, especially in Nairobi, I mean the tech space, our world is very interconnected. Even if I don't know you, I know somebody who knows you. So I need to also know that then the message that comes from the people that know you speak coherently with the value that you actually tell me when you're talking here. Otherwise, you'll be selling fluff. So yes, I know it's an interesting space. Yes, walk into this space, you want to tell what you do. But the approach is, what can I add value to what it is that is being done? And just curating a story, like the way we do pitches. There's this problem, this is how we've solved it before, or this is how we can solve it, and this is why I'm the best person to solve it, in a way.
Stanley?
To add what Brighton has said, when you get to a networking room, it is always about what value am I getting from a decision maker's perspective. Whenever you get into a room where these people are, they are always in exchange of value. What am I getting? And as rightly put, when you have that 5 minutes with a decision maker, CEO or a director in a certain organization, and you have that privilege that you've got to know about the organization and what they're grappling with, then your leverage at that point is, have this solution, and have you ever checked or have you ever thought of such, and this is my skill that I can bring to the table. If you get to a room that you don't know the other person, it is, again, how you package yourself for value, not just, putting fluff out there and thinking it's changing pleasantries only. No, it is about what can I gain leaving this place. What do I gain as an organization or as an individual, and vis-a-vis vice versa, what are you getting from us in return?
So Angie, even as you tell us about networking, is it teachable? Can you teach someone how to network?
Fantastic. that you asked that question, because that was what I was going to answer, is that sometimes even the term networking sounds very intimidating and daunting. Sometimes you look at certain people and you're like, wow, their networks are so great. That one is already there. But do you know that each of us have networks already? Whether you're conscious of them or you're not conscious. Many times when you're thinking about it, you're thinking about this great CEO, this investor there. But by virtue of the fact that first and foremost, you've made it this far in your life, you have people in your network. All right? They say that over 80% of opportunities that you will get in your career in business will come from somebody in your circle, directly or indirectly. All right? So think about it this way. You've been born in a family. And in your family, you have siblings. Siblings who, depending on, of course, where they are, the dynamic, your parents, they work somewhere, right? They might work in a different field from you, but they work somewhere. In that organization where they work, there are people who maybe sit in the same offices that you want to one day be part of, right? If your sibling, let's say, is in communication, or let's say marketing, they maybe they're part of the IHRM and Marketing Society of Kenya. There are places where they have access to that you don't, because you're not in that particular space. But maybe it's something you're considering. Your sibling is part of your network of people who can be able to introduce you to other people. That's just your siblings, your parents, your families, your aunties, uncles, cousins, whoever. Because many times we look down upon the networks and the people connected to us already where we are. And we miss out on the opportunity to even pitch our siblings. I don't know, for those of you who are on social media, if you've ever seen this trend of where friends are hanging out and they're like, actually, by the way, what do you do? I mean, I know you as my friend, but I don't really know what you do at work. And that's the reality for most of us. We don't actually know what kind of influence does my sibling have? What kind of influence does an auntie and uncle somewhere have? And this is not about favoritism or nepotism in any way, but it's that these people who are connected to me legitimately, even before I do anything for them, have access to places and rooms and people's ears that I don't have, right? Then you go wider. Those are people just in your family. What about your neighbors and your friends that you get along with? Those are people who are also part of your network, and people who can introduce you to other people who can speak on your behalf, can network, can be even the people who can invest. Beyond that, people you've gone with to school, lecturers you've had, previous bosses, previous colleagues or people in the particular spaces. Because you know how life is. Life is very seasonal. In this one season, somebody who just looks like they're anybody, or nobody rather. And if the next season they are owner of a very, very big company. So being able to audit, I usually help people to be able to audit. Look at, before you say, okay, I want to get there and sit in front of this person to network with them. Look at the circle that you have and the circle you have built by virtue of the life experience you've had, and see, is there anyone that I am journeying with right now who can be able to get me into certain rooms, can be able to connect me, can be able to speak on my behalf? Because sometimes I don't have to sit in front of every CEO, but one person who I know in my circle, who knows what I do and how good I am at what I do, they will speak for me somewhere else. And so, as simple as that, before we even get to, even just packaging, when I have my one-on-one with somebody who I consider a heavy hitter, I can be able to practice my pitch and practice my communication about my value with the people around me. Because sometimes I tell people, even just something as basic as WhatsApp, you'll find very few people. We're in many groups with many people, so you have all these people who have access to your WhatsApp status, or even your friends online. They don't even know what you do, because you've decided you want to move in silence. Yes, you want to move in silence, you want to be mysterious. So maybe even somebody who is part of your contact list, when you're medharau sana, they can be somebody who sees, oh, so-and-so offers this product, so-and-so does this particular work. If they hear of an opportunity, how will they know that you are also there? Part of your networking is even leveraging your social media and even access to contacts that you have to be able to get the opportunities that you're looking for.
Okay. I want us to talk a bit about international jobs. Even me myself, I've applied to Kwanza UN It seems no one ever gets in. Stanley, how did you get in? Can you give us first your experience? How did you get in? Because I believe there are people you've tried. It's one of the best employers. So we're here because you've never been in. So you can tell us, how did you get in? How was your experience? How do you position yourself to get in there?
90% of UN staff started as interns, me included. So it is how you position yourself, how you interact with people, creating the relationship. The UN, on Friday, we work up to 2, and you're free to work up to 5. So how I positioned myself, I'm an intern. I don't have anywhere to go. So I used to spend an extra hour. And the lucky thing is, my boss was a Nigerian. And she used to spend the extra hour. And she noticed that, I'm offering that extra time to offer solution to those coming tasks. Maybe they are going for a mission outside the country, I'll help. However small it looked, but he valued my time in that point in time. The other thing about the UN system, we have different platforms from different organizations. For example, for UNON, UNEP, and Habitat, they are called Secretariat. There is Inspira. For UNDP, UN Women, UNFPA, they have a different one. WHO has its own. UNICEF has its own. So it's not one fit all, as you can make an assumption. Then the other thing would be, once you're applying, also getting to the nitty-gritties. Case in example, there are opportunities that are meant for earmarked positions. And this earmarking means they're meant for people living with disability, or they're meant for women in a certain space. Then the other thing will be not having the knowledge to know if they have said an international position in Kenya and it speaks to your CV and you do the application. Basically what they mean, that position, it's meant for non-Kenyans. So if you apply, that will be, it will not go through. Actually, by just clicking your application, the system will reject it just by you clicking apply. Then the other thing will be, let's say for example, it's a national position, you're doing the application. There are some criteria that they check, and it's system-based. So when you click, maybe there is a question and they asked, and you clicked, I don't have, or I don't know, or you don't qualify. Again, that will automatically ghost you, quote unquote. So in a way, for example, if they asked, have you used Umoja? Umoja is the ERP system for the UN. The best way, you don't have that experience because you are an external candidate, but what you are encouraged to do is click yes to bypass that question and explain that you have other ERP system experience that you've acquired from other organizations, because if you don't, then the system will kick you out. And then the other one that I will say will be their government-sponsored positions. Case in example, in the system we have different contracts, from the professional contract to general staff to interns to individual contractors to consultancy to UN volunteers. And UN volunteers, what people perceive out here is a voluntary job, which it's not true. That is a competitive job and you're paid well. And with that, especially with UNV, UN volunteer, their government, let's say government of Norway, government of Japan, they give money. And this money they give, they say we want to employ our own people. So for example, you're just applying, for example, for an international position in Uganda, you're qualified for that position, but since it was government sponsored, then that means it's just meant for maybe free Japanese people or the people that the government has sponsored. So be keen, go through the system well, understand what you're applying for, and again, make sure you don't copy-paste your previous job JD. No, curate something or your CV to speak to what you're doing. The problem is so many people may go and pick a JD, copy-paste, and then they do the application, forgetting to remove other parts like other duties involved. So you just pick even that one and you'll just know this person is not serious with his or her application. Yeah.
And let me have a follow-up question. Most of these international jobs and NGOs, they ask for someone with experience in NGOs. So maybe there's someone here who has worked in other fields and is trying to pivot into the NGO space, or just basically any other space that they're not in. How do you pivot? Like now I've worked maybe in banking all my life. I'm trying to get into NGO. How do I get in?
Again, we can't force some things. If you've not been an NGO, maybe there's an experience that I'm looking for, specific, as Angie put it right, that you might not have that experience in the field, and you're trying to force yourself that you've been Dadaab, and yet you've never worked in Dadaab, and they need somebody in Somali. So it's good that you, again, tailor-make it and see if it fits. Are there things that don't play, like voluntary job, working in church, working in volunteering in some other, so you don't play that, and it will be the game changer in your application. So again, put that in your application and don't force things where they don't applicable.
Brighton, you're very good at pivoting from this to that to that. How do you do it?
I'm not sure whether there's a formula. I'm a very curious person, I think I mentioned. So, and it's true to most of us in the continent. When you're starting off even at the time you're choosing your career, sometimes you don't even know exactly what you want to do with it. And if you even take it back in high school, you're selecting the subjects, combinations that you're going to do, and then you try to figure out, so if I do this STEM, that means I can do all this, and then you come choose your degree, then you do your degree. By the time you're finishing your degree, if it's not the one that your parents forced it on you, it's something that you wanted to do, so it looks like it's. And then you come get your first job. And if I use Kenyan context, and what I've seen with my friends in other spaces, the first job we get, it's not necessarily because it is in our career. It's shule, I want to get a job, I want to pay. So the first job comes, I take it. And sometimes that defines the career I take. But while you continue to do your work, and from my experiences, so I started as an engineer. But then I had curiosity towards a particular line. Then an opportunity came, another interest came in. And those interests kept evolving over time. And even to date, now I've remained with 4 broad paths. I'm still growing. But as I continue to do, I realize my strengths are in this area. And if my strengths are in this area, then these are the options that I have in terms of growth. But one of the things that has really helped me in my pivot has been people I've worked with, my line managers, go to a place where they can trust me to get things done. And I know we underscore how important that is. And there's something Angie mentioned that is very important. Yes, we have these networks from family, friends, etc., even here in church. But you also know those instances where you get an opportunity and you have a sibling that has studied that thing, but you cannot give them the opportunity because you cannot trust them to get that. You cannot entrust your social capital to them, even your friends, etc. And it's an important thing. Yes, you have these networks, but if you cannot get your things done, as simple things like you are tasked to just make sure that these mics are working. As simple as that looks like, people are looking at you like, oh, she can actually get things done. And today that's how I operate. The people I've interacted with that get things done, they're the people I give opportunities to, whatever that opportunity is. And I also live in a world where we can learn. Today I'm doing strategy. I'm an engineer. And people entrust me to drive that because I demonstrated trustworthiness over and over and over again. And as I'm given these opportunities, I learn how to do it, I do my best, and while at it, then probably I discover wings I didn't have. Then I pivot towards that as opportunities open up. So yes, it's a big funnel. As you continue to grow, it continues to narrow down. There are those very technical tracks, especially for us in IT world, but also in most of the professionals, where you're a payroll person and you perfect that, or you're an admin and that's your space, or I'm an engineer and just love coding. But then there are those of us who you continue to grow because you learn this and that, and they converge. And when they converge, they help you do better and you continue to do. So yes, I've pivoted, but most of it has been largely driven by curiosity, opportunities to get things done because somebody has entrusted me with it. And as I continue to do that, then I realize my interests are more on this side. I enjoy solving these problems, so I continue to gravitate towards that, and I'm still on that journey.
Okay. And even Angie, as you answer that, you can tell us, sometimes it feels like less qualified people are moving. I'm not, but everyone who seems to be less qualified than me is moving. What would you say about that?
Yeah, let me just say something on the previous question. Sometimes we underestimate, and I think Stanley alluded to that, the power of volunteering and being in spaces where we're not necessarily being paid. Yes, you've not been in the NGO space, but there are many NGOs. Like, find time. If I really want to get into the NGO space, I will make time to make sure that I can get some experience. You think about anything from a children's home to the UN, to church. There's always opportunities for you to practice the thing you want to go and do. So avail yourself. Maybe it will mean that after hours, I will come and plug in. Maybe on Saturdays, on Sundays, I'll give 2 hours of my time. I am in law, and I'm tired of corporate law. I want to move into the NGO sector. Can I offer my services, freely or free of charge? Can I understudy somebody in that particular space? And it can be true of NGOs in any other place. We create these barriers in our minds or scripts in our minds on how things have to be. I have to be hired there, and so da-da-da. No, as long as you have the experience, and you see, the more you're in that space, the more you learn the language in that space. There are some things you do in, let's say, business development. You can't talk about business development in NGO. You can talk about, here you'll be talking about stakeholders and things, or maybe you'll talk about investors. Here we'll be talking about partnership engagement. So you need to learn the language of where you want to go. So don't underestimate opportunities to sit under other people in those spaces, to shadow people, to volunteer, to offer your services, maybe free of charge, in those spaces. And then to answer your question, kujituma ni muhimu. The Bible even says the kingdom of God suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. Sometimes, this expression, closed mouths don't get fed. And the reality is, sometimes you are the best kept secret. You can see there's a problem, there's something that needs to be done. You're just waiting for people to discern that you're the one for the job, especially in church. And then to make it worse, I know Brighton had talked about the fact that, our African conditioning usually is about us being humble. Nobody, let people be able to see. To make it worse, my experience has been, for women, it's even worse. Because women want people to read their minds. You just want somebody to sense you're upset. You're not going to have the conversation and say, I'm upset because of this and this. No, I want to bang the door. I want to not give you food, ban your food, so that you can remember and know why it is I'm angry with you. And we take that to the workplace. That if I have work done somewhere, I want people to sort of notice it. But let me tell you, the equivalent in the male gender, what I have seen, even in interviews, somebody will come and they have only ever done this thing we're looking for once. They will talk about it like it is what they do every single day, as opposed to a woman who does it, but they sort of want you to know. And of course, that is very stereotypical because it's what I have seen in interviews and in the workplace. But it could be true. You might even be a gentleman, and sadly, you are in that place of downplaying it. I don't want to appear that, I'm saying too much, I'm doing too much. Nobody will advocate for you more than you can advocate for yourself. You're the one who knows. You know why you want this job. You know how good you can be at this job. You know already how you're wired to be able to solve this problem. Your mother is not coming to speak on your behalf. Even when you have referees, the referees usually are guided. Okay, they'll be asked questions maybe like, have you experienced this person in a team setup? How have they been? They'll be guided on what they will answer. So they won't say everything about you. So you need to be confident enough and build that confidence. It might not be natural for you, but you need to build that confidence to be able to speak for yourself. And people who are less qualified, many times, speak for themselves. I think, Stanley, it was you who had mentioned about loud people in the workplace. People who just say, maybe you're in a room, you just want to be the quiet one. You want to wait to be asked. Somebody will say, I think I know somebody who can do that. Even you knew, but you didn't say. Now this person has been noticed. And so that's what happens often. People who want a jituma are the ones who get the opportunities. Have some audacity. Have audacity. Like, it's important. Just have the audacity in the workplace. If you ask for an opportunity, if you show up, what's the worst they can do? They can't kill you. They'll just say no. And then you'll move on to the next one. But now there you are wondering, how comes they're always favoring this one? They're always, but you have never said, nobody even knows you want a promotion. Nobody even knows you want to move to that other department because you have never said it. Just set the shame aside and, ask for the opportunities and the things that you want in the workplace. Yeah.
Okay. In this era of career coaching, AI, you get a very good CV, and you see that CV and you think this person is the best for this job. Then they come for the interview. It is a totally different person from the CV. Maybe we can speak a bit about, you can have the perfect CV, but how are you doing in that interview? And I know the introverts will say, how do I sit in a 1-hour interview? What happens? So how do you translate what is on paper to what is on? And I know we've touched a bit about it, but if you could be specific about it. So Brighton, what you have seen a CV, it's good. Then this person shows up and you wonder, wait, is it the same person?
Yeah, enough times. And maybe earlier on, I was the person too. But as Anja's mentioned, we have learned to underscore ourselves. I think that's one. So you don't want, because you're trying to do that balance, I don't want to be looking desperate and self-promoting. But on the other side, you self-sabotage, because then you're not saying exactly what value you're bringing, etc. But also in interviews, there's also that phobia and stuff that comes in. From my experience, what I have seen, and now we've seen people even coach on it, is there's a whole structure to how you communicate your value. And we know today, it's, are you able to solve this problem? And have you solved it before? And why are you the best person to solve it? It's that simple. That's how I usually look at it. And every time, even myself, when I'm playing for interviews, can I solve that problem they're looking for somebody to solve? Have I done it before? Am I the best person? Now, if I have answers to those, then when I'm going to that interview, I'm like, so how am I going to demonstrate that, one, I understand the problem and what you're trying to solve? So, for example, you're hiring for, let me use my example. So you're hiring for somebody to come and do, I don't know, run some innovation department or function. But then this is a different industry. So what does that look like in your industry or in your organization? Have I done that before? Yes, I've done this, I've done that. Am I able to package that and say, this is what I understand you guys are looking for. You're looking for this and that and that and that. And this is what I've done before in that regard. There was this time at this opportunity I did ABCD, and this is how the value looked like, the outcomes. I led this, we launched this product, revenue grew by this, or things like those. And then what was my role and why am I the best person to do that? Because say you have 5 or 6 people in that interview who've also largely done the same things before. So why you? So then, so we have your credentials that speak to, I have these certifications, I have this, but then there's also my willingness to learn. And today, Charles will tell you, beyond all the things we do, and I've seen it even from my very first employer, you do all the technical interviews, and then the last one, it's a cultural fit test or interview. So you have conversation with someone that listens to you, could be about anything. Bob Colimol, the late, used to do that. He'll come and ask you random things about football or about matatus in the city. And while you're speaking, him is just looking at that fitness. Are you open-minded? Do you look like somebody who can learn? Are you somebody when you stick to this, that's it, you cannot be taught? Are you, those things. And you have to be aware of that so that then when I'm coming to these spaces, I can demonstrate value, but then I can also demonstrate how I'm the best person for this, from credibility, what I've done before, what value did I bring, but also that culture of fitness, because now it's coming almost in every organization. You guys are doing this is your mission. How is it interlinked to what personally I do? I love African and Pan-African, and I've done so many things in that space. So like in my current organization, my very first conversation was, there are these all things that we are doing, and you want somebody who can do this and all that, all that. So you just wondering whether you would, and like, yeah, at the top of it is, this is what you guys are trying to do, and this is what I've been doing on the other world, and this is, we are co-aligned at this point. So what that means is, even at the thick of things when I'm doing this work, I am driven, najituma, because there is something that drives me. And then now demonstrating that then speaks to that fitness, but then the credibility, I've done this before, I have these certifications, if this is all the things that they look at. So yeah, so that's how I would say, understand what they're looking for, what they need sorted out. Have you done that before? Demonstrate that, speak about it. Why are you the best person to do that or solve that? Demonstrate credibility and all those other pieces. Thank you.
Stanley?
I'll use the 6 P's. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. By you preparing early enough, the things that you have a proper CV, you've paid 20,000 for someone to have a 8 years compliant CV, but you can't defend that CV. Go through it, get coached on what is in there. Someone has just put that from a point of their profession and created a perfect CV for you, but you can't defend it. And that's why I said you'll find some people just copy-paste JD for an application. So get preparation. There is also a mock interview when you're getting to an interview. With internet now, you can get questions online so that you can have a friend or a mentor or someone who's in that space to get to hear what you're pitching before you get to the interview. The other thing will be, in the HR world, there are things we've seen over and over, and you can tell this someone who's serious, who's not serious. So again, the time that you take to do the application matters a lot. To look on the nitty-gritties that the recruiting manager or the recruiting organization is looking for, so that your CV can address those issues, okay? And also when it comes to the preparation, within the UN, there's so much that is out there. There's material, and whatever Brighton is saying, we call it competence-based interview. We use your prior experience to know if you're able to handle the tasks that are put there. So get to have that material, get to understand the questions and different angles. You can do it maybe today. You have a whole week, you can get a perspective from Brighton. The next day, you're getting a perspective from me, just to get different perspective on that when you're getting to an interview, before getting to an interview.
Okay, Angie, even as I ask the person helping me with the roaming mic, we can take a few questions, even as we get to starting to just close up. Yes. So the person is not, the CV is not the person, or the person is not the CV.
Yeah, and I think the first preface of your question had been the introverts who feel like, can't my work just speak for myself? The thing is, yes, you're being hired for your technical skills, but the technical skills are not things we can see. They're inside you as a person. So I need to be able to know that I can work with you as a person. So I need to know who you are so that I can get those technical skills. And that's why you need to have an interview. Yes, you'll do the technical tests and things, and you'll be able to show that the technical aspects. But if you don't, you can't work well with everyone else. We can't sacrifice the whole organization for you. I'd like to give an example. You can imagine hiring for something, a role as simple as maybe a cleaning lady, somebody or cleaning gentleman or lady who is coming to work somewhere. They can be the best cleaner, even, world-renowned, or even the whole of Nairobi, we want this cleaner. But if this particular cleaner has a terrible attitude, okay? So when we have clients waiting in the reception, they're pouring water on them, they're kicking them, they're doing what? Does it matter that they have very good cleaning skills? It doesn't, right? Because the package that they're in is not aligned to the organization. And so it will actually cost us more business than it is that we're paying this person, whether it's a big amount or a small amount. And it will now drive away not just the clients, but maybe even other people in the organization. So you need to come for the interview. I think a number of things have been said there with regards to your preparedness. Many people either, I don't know if it's underestimating interviews or being overly fearful of interviews, because both of those are problems. If you underestimate it, you will not prepare well. But if you are overly intimidated by an interview, it will be evident to the person recruiting you. Okay? So if you come to the table as an inferior, yes, you really want the job, but you should not come in as an inferior. Because if you come and sit across from a recruiter as an inferior, one, you're not likely to get the terms you want. You're likely to just accept whatever it is we're doing, because we're doing you a favor. You are just ready to say yes, yes, yes to anything that is being given there. But secondly, you will also not be able to assess, is this organization actually for me? And then sometimes you find people, they start new roles, within 2 months they're saying, I don't want to work here anymore. You're asking, why, when you were threatened to work there, you were just so desperate to get in, and so you didn't do your due diligence in the interview. You are not able to negotiate, you are not able to show up and do things well. And then the other thing is that the person on paper might look like they have good negotiation skills or they're at a particular level, but they come in and they just say yes, yes, yes to everything. You even wondering, this person was head of a department. Like, they're not seeing there's issues here. Maybe you give them a scenario and they're just agreeing with everything. Again, because they are so scared of not getting this job that they're agreeing with everything. And you just seem like somebody who doesn't have a backbone, or you don't have a spine with regards to the job. So the better it is you prepare, both in terms of knowing your value and coming in with confidence, so that you know, I am coming to this interview, but I am not here as an underdog. Unless you've bribed someone. I tell people the only time you should be scared of an interview is if you've bribed somebody. Because maybe the amount you've bribed, maybe it was supposed to bribe these 3 people, but the person I gave ate all the money, and so now it is risky, But if I know that I have qualified to attend this interview, there must be value that these people have seen in me. They're not just sitting down with everybody, so they must have seen some value. And so I need to affirm that what you have seen by the time you're shortlisting me is actually what I am and what it is that I'm offering in the organization.
Okay. I'd like to take some questions from the audience. So I don't know, host team, you can help me with a microphone. So anyone who has a question, I can see one hand at the back, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll take the 5. We'll start at the back.
Thanks for the opportunity. So Eric is my name, and there's just something that I was thinking about. Now, you've spoken about now the recruited, like what they recruited, what's expected of the recruited. But then now, let me just flip it a bit. Now, let me just ask something about now what you recruiters face in terms of, what's the thing that is most challenging for you recruiters, and what's the thing that is seemingly disconnected, especially for now the side of the recruiter, that could be done even better, just so that there's a smooth experience, because it feels like it's all about the recruited. But what about the recruiter? What are the challenges that the recruiter faces, especially now when it comes to an organizational context in terms of what is broken and what could be done better?
Thank you. I want us to take 2, answer them, then take the other 3. So the second one was here in blue.
My question was, 2 things. One, what's your general conclusion on AI? So do you feel it's a hindrance maybe to people cannot express their natural self on paper, maybe on the resume or cover letter? Or do you think it's a plus? So maybe you'll comment on that. But the second thing was just in my mind. There's some people out there who have that, I don't know, it's a mindset or mentality that whatever is meant for me will be mine, or whatever is not meant for me won't be mine. So when it comes to recruitment, do you feel like if there's a role, like there's someone who's destined to have a specific role, or is it about finding the best compromise? Maybe someone who will they may not be 100, but they will be 80 to 90. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'll start with Stanley. We can start with the first question. On the recruiter side, what can be improved? And also you can join it together with how AI is affecting and how do we navigate it? How do we use it right? Is it a tool or is it the one that does the work for you? Is it a resource or a tool?
I don't know if I got it right. He mentioned something what we grapple with as when we're in that boardroom now making that decision, who are we recruiting at the end of the day?
Yes.
Go through different stages. You may have the aptitude test, then you move to the competence-based interview. And we put all these together, and also culture fit. We put all these things together. At the end of the day, we come up with the aggregated marks and say there is 5, there is 10, there is 80, there is 95. And the decision will come when we are sitting with the hiring manager and say, this is what I'm looking for. This is how this person has performed. And things that come up will be like the affirmative action. There is a department that has only ladies, and you are very qualified to a point of you are the best candidate. You're number 1 with the 95, and then there's a male candidate with 90. The discussion will be on now, since we are all ladies, there's an affirmative action that has to be taken that we need a male in this department. The other thing will be how do you fit to the job? As I said, culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How are you fit in the organization? You could be very good in technical aspect, but how are you going to fit in the culture of the organization? Because reputation risk is very high and it's costly to organization. So they'll rather lose you than lose the organization.
Okay, what about AI?
About AI, it's a very brilliant tool. And again, it's used all over the place. And we can't say that we sit back and watch how the world is moving to that direction. So as HR, we're also using AI to filter. When you're using the application process, AI is being used. And again, how we are saying it's being misused is how you copy-paste things that you've not done and put in your CV and instruct AI to bring a brilliant CV for the application. So again, if you can't demonstrate, you can be smart on the instruction that you're giving AI to curate the CV to fit the job, and it will give you a very perfect CV. But again, at the end of the day, will you demonstrate the same? Okay? You will have seen a job, managerial opportunity, and instruct the AI to curate that CV. But again, you can't demonstrate those skills when you come to competency-based interviews. Yeah.
Okay, Brighton, you've sat in interview panels. You can tell us AI, we talk about AI, and also as a recruiter who's also not in HR, what are some of the things you've seen as a challenge on your side?
Okay. So I'd say when I'm hiring, my underscore is always, can I trust you to get the work done? Now, if you truly think about it, that trust is in part objective, is in part subjective. The objective part is, yeah, you can demonstrate, you have all the credentials, etc., etc. The subjective part is, can I tell that you can work well with teams? The cultural fitness I was talking about. I need to be able to see that. Now, come to the AI. AI is a tool that helps us, just the way Excel helps us with other things, or your phone helps us in communication. If you use your AI to tailor your CV, but you end up putting things that you cannot defend, then you are putting yourself in disrepute. Because if I'm able to pick that during the interview, every time I start in interviews, I'm able to tell when somebody is nervous and when somebody lied on their CV. There's a way you can tell. And when somebody is nervous, you can extend grace and then you figure out then how do you deal with it so that for different reasons. But if someone has lied, then I cannot trust them. And all of you know, beyond those interviews you do, then you also have due diligence, callbacks, and all the other things that the recruiters do. Now, well, at it, they say, you said you went to this school between this time and this time. Did you actually go to that school? You said you did this certification. Did you actually do? They get to do that. And is it because they think that you're lying? They're trying to establish that they can trust what you've put there. And the same thing. So that's how I look at it. So use your AI, and I do. I actually have a premium subscription to it because it helps my work done. It simplifies many things, gives different perspectives. But everything that I extract from that, I have to sanity check and make sure that it is true, it reflects me, and I can defend it. And when I step in those spaces, then I can be able to actually demonstrate that. So yes, use it. Of course, use it. But don't overexpose yourself on the other side by saying things that you cannot defend, and you'll be caught one way or another. So that's that. So of course, on the issues we see is, like in that case, somebody has said they've done ABCD. When they come to the interviews, they cannot defend that. Or you give them scenarios, and they cannot. So here they're saying they led a team, or they managed a mergers and acquisition, or they did this and that. You give them a scenario related to that, and they cannot navigate through it. Then it's either they are lying, or there's something just fundamentally off with the way they are. And as long as I can see that, in my view, I cannot trust you. And if I cannot trust you, I'm not going to give you that opportunity.
Okay, Angie. And also you can point out, I know you had mentioned a bit about even as those people who are applying, how can they gauge also to know that this is not an organization I want to work for? Because I think also that is something that is coming up from the first question as well. What are those things that even as someone is looking to be shortlisted, what are those things they also need to look out for? What are those red flags from companies' recruiting process? What are those red flags people can look out for?
Okay, that's a great question. I think just the reviews, even of an organization. Nowadays, you can even go online on LinkedIn. You can go to sites like Glassdoor and see reviews on organizations. If people are constantly talking about how their salaries are late, they're not being paid, people are being abused, and there's just issues, and even those are employee reviews. But even beyond that, if there's a lot of scandal in that organization, so things you've been seeing publicly in the media, that might be I'm not really sure I want to work for this organization. Something also very simple you can do is look at the organizational values. Like, is this something that I believe in? You know, sometimes people have difficulty staying in a workplace because you go into the workplace and realize, actually, yeah, the things they're doing here, the things they're saying, the things that this organization is involved in that are against my faith and my values, my personal stance. And so you can do your due diligence beforehand. What do they stand for? What do they do? Other things that are important to you. Maybe you want salary X in 100,000 plus. And you know that this organization, or even from their communication to you, they're not going to pay for that position. No matter how good you are, they're not going to pay more than 30,000, 40,000. Similar to what we usually do and say, oh, I will get into a relationship with an unbeliever and I will change them. I will pray for them. Once I'm in, I will convert them. And we do the same thing in workplaces. They've already told you, we're not going to pay more than X amount, or we're not going to pay our interns, our volunteers. But you go in thinking it will be different because you will convince them. So it's a red flag in terms of not because they will not pay what you want, but because you're not aligned in terms of that. So what they have told you, this is what we're going to pay, this is what we have put aside for this role, then believe them and now act in relation to that. Other things could be, maybe another thing that's important to you is opportunities for growth, opportunities for mentorship, opportunities for travel. Maybe that organization doesn't have those, you know, so you're going to be at this level for X amount of time. They don't, when you look at maybe their organizational chart, how people have developed in the organization, because a lot of these things you can find online, you realize, hey, this person has been the marketing manager for 35 years. You have graduated or you are developing your career. Are you likely to unseat this person who is almost even a stronghold in that organization? Like, there's no opportunity for growth there. And so if growth is an important thing in your career where you are, then maybe that's not a place you want to go and plug in. If it's mentorship, if it is being seconded for maybe international assignments, you want to travel, but this role specifically is office-based in a particular town, in a particular city, then you're unlikely to be happy in that organization. Yeah.
What about the questions that were asked about AI, and as a recruiter, what are the challenges you face?
I think the biggest challenge is, we've talked about CVs, but it's even the cover letters and the emails. Recently, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was recruiting for or shortlisting for a personal assistant role. And in fact, at some point, the first time I saw this particular email, I'm like, that's an interesting tone of voice, because there's a way AI, maybe sort of sometimes, especially with applications, tries to make everyone seem bubbly in a particular way, in a particular tone. I don't know how to explain it. But after like 5-6 emails of the same sort of, there are different words, but I'm like, this reads exactly like this other one, like this other one. So already even the subject of the email, already I was like, oh, here we go again. The next one, like that. And I think the issue with AI is great. I use AI a lot, a whole lot. But the issue is when you use it to replace your God-given ability to communicate, to think, to imagine, to be unique. Because unfortunately, with a lot of AI content and what comes out, it's very generic. So in as much as it sounds like it's customized for you, it is saying that to very many other people. And so it's no longer you. It's supposed to give you ideas to think about, maybe other things you haven't thought about. It's supposed to complement and supplement what you already put in it. So if you tell it, I'm applying for this and this and this, what do you think I should include in the email? But it's not to replace. There are things you have learned yourself. Like, use your own voice and supplement. Maybe it tells you also need to make sure you address the hiring manager. In your email, you should include maybe a personal fact, or why you're connected to this brand, or why you're connected to this role. Customize it for yourself. Don't just put the one that AI tells you, put this and this. No, because then it overrides that natural connection ability that a recruiter would want to sense with a candidate. I think that would be my answer for the AI. Then there's that last very interesting question about, are there jobs that are meant for certain people? In the world, sadly, I think we suffer many problems as Christians, and usually it's around those not really applying ourselves. The Bible says clearly, God blesses the work of our hands. You must put your seed in the ground. You must till the land. You must go and do the thing for God to be able to bless it. If it is for you, yes, as believers, we trust that God will lead us and direct us and all those things, but we must put in the work. A story is told about this guy who wanted to win the lottery. He was going through so much, and he wanted to win the lottery, and he kept praying and praying. It was a weekly prayer request. In fact, everybody in church knew that today brother so-and-so is going to stand up and ask us to pray for this thing. People even started fasting and praying with him, until one day, a voice came from heaven to him in his house after he had locked himself and said, please go and buy a lottery ticket. Because God was like, work with me here. You want to win the lottery, but you're just hold up praying and fasting. How work with God as well. We're not preaching the gospel of God helps those who help themselves, but there is an order in which God has put in the world, where there is reaping, where you sow. And so there's the blend between God's sovereignty, but there's also a lot that God requires of us as human beings to put in the work to be able to get the outcomes we want.
Wow, thank you. I know there was another question here, and as you've spoken to that, it's taken me back to this week. Someone was looking for an internship where I work, and I called them and they never picked. And now we followed up with an email, and when the person called me back, they told me outrightly, I don't pick strange numbers. And I asked this person, you're looking for an internship, you're looking for a job. Okay, who will call you, who knows you? You don't pick strange numbers. And that is what they told me bluntly, I don't pick strange numbers. And I was just trying to understand, your CV has that number. You don't pick strange numbers. Is it God who will come and hold you and bring you to the organization? Sometimes it's the basic thing. It just took me back, and I just remember wondering, you don't pick strange numbers. How then? I know we had a question here and here. I don't know who has the mic. So we had one from a lady here, a gentleman there and there. right here at the front, here, followed by him. So sometimes it's just what you have. You don't pick that strange number. It could be your next job.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
So my name is Chelsea. I'm a pharmacist intern, and my internship is ending in July, and I have rent to pay. So there's a job for like a medical representative, and they look for pharmacists, biochemists, generally health scientists, and while it's true I may have the technical know-how to all the scientific knowledge to be able to communicate with other healthcare practitioners to pitch drugs and all that, they do require like 1 year experience of being a med rep, but the only experience I have is like an internship which has run for 1 year. So I was wondering, how do I position myself for such a job? Another question would be to Stanley. You said you're with the UN, and I was wondering now, for a person who has no idea where to begin, where do I start? How do I maybe secure an internship or the voluntary jobs that you've stated, like from scratch, someone who knows nothing? Where do I start? Thank you.
We can take the last one question that was here and another one that was there, so we can answer them together.
Well, thank you. My name is Evans. I have a question on CV and LinkedIn optimization. One of the challenges I've faced personally is I want to get to the interview room, but there is this ATS recommended CV, and a lot of HR firms are into CV revamp, but they have different school of thoughts. Personally, I've paid close to 3 HR firms, but when you run them through ATS recommended systems, they tell you that it's below 50 or maybe 32%, and you've gone at a cost. And you know you are someone that you have the skill, you can do the job, but the bridge to getting this job becomes a problem. So what is the right practice that can help a fellow job seeker to get positioned to these opportunities?
Okay, we can take the final question.
Thank you for your great insights. My name is Diana. I have 2 questions. The first one is, what is your opinion on blind emails or blind applications? And would you be willing as a recruiter to employ someone who's in a different industry? For example, your organization deals with finance, but this person is applying for a job or maybe an opportunity to work as a cleaner, for example. So you're in different industries, but they want to work for your organization. And if you would be willing to employ them, what will draw you to them, not their career and qualifications notwithstanding? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get right into it. I'll start with Stanley. She asked about how to get into the UN space and also jobs that are asking for 1 year experience, and hers has been a 1 year internship.
Good. The first mistake that most of us do, I also did it, and I was told not to do it again, is we downplay ourselves. When you meet an intern in the UN complex, they'll tell you, I'm just an intern. That is an incriminatory statement you're making. You are a profession in your area with that kind of contract. You are a pharmacist under an internship contract for 6 months. So you're not just an intern. When you pitch like that, you've already, you're doing disjustice to yourself, all right? So you are a profession in your area in this kind of contract. So never introduce yourself in that, with that fashion. Make sure you package yourself so that someone can see value, because you've gone to school to study. It's only that you don't have the experience yet, all right? Now, when it comes to experience, when you're saying, and that's something that we also advocate, the volunteer job that you do, the internship, package it well, because there is a TOR already that you're doing. You're supporting some things that are being achieved in that organization. So your presence in that organization has moved something from point A to point B. Take credit where it's due, so that a potential employer can see what you've done and the potential that you'll be bringing to the organization. Take advantage of learning as well. Indicate that you've learned something in AI, something in data analysis. Those are gold at the moment in terms of moving organization to the next frontier. The next thing about where do you start? Again, these opportunities are online, the volunteer opportunities, the internship opportunities. And where it sits is volunteer opportunity they are competitive, yes, but they're in different levels. We have youth volunteer, we have university volunteer, youth volunteer, we have specialist volunteer, and we have expert volunteer. And they have different requirements and different quote-unquote salary. It's a stipend, but it's well-paying. So where you can start, it's by going to their website. For the volunteer is, if you can write it down, app.unv.org. You can even calculate your quote-unquote salary. There is a entitlement calculator, and you can see how much you can earn as a national youth volunteer, an international expert volunteer in a certain country. Then there's another question was on the LinkedIn and ATS compliant application. Now with this, different organizations have different systems. So as I say, even within the UN, they have different platforms within their website. So you can't pick one fit all to apply across unless they want you to attach a CV, and most of the organization are going digital. So you will have to, apply online. And again, if you have, like within the UN system, if you already have a profile, it's just updating it. So there is no need for you to come and attach a CV for you to apply. So it depends with the organization and also what you've updated lately for you to get the opportunity. Again, it's not one fit all. You might have applied for a position as a HR officer, and within the same organization, there's an opportunity 3 months down the line for an administrative assistant, which you'll find some things are aligning. So just twitching it to fit the opportunity. The other question was on?
Different industry trying to move to a different industry.
Yes, also statistically within the UN system, there are people, first let me start with a myth whereby the UN is only meant for diplomats. That's a myth, it's not a fact. The fact is the UN employs across board, from engineers to finance officers to HR to pharmacists to medical doctors, because it is cutting across. WHO, what is their mandate? UNDP is development, so they'll require people with finance to help in project management and such like. So again, it depends with the mandate of the organization. You will not need a mortician in a finance department, all right? So you can't force that, but you may have skills that will help within that organization. If it's not fitting, you may try another organization, so that you can also struggle as a person when you're in that organization. You'll find yourself straining a lot when you get to an organization that maybe through quote-unquote crooked means you find yourself in a role that you don't understand anything. You represent the organization in a fora where people are talking technical terms and you're there wondering what they're talking about. But again, with experience from volunteering in different areas, and this comes, case in example, when, let's say for example, the UN is planning for UNEA, United Nations Environment Assembly in Nairobi, and you volunteered in CITAM Valley Road to prepare for a conference that is coming. Same concept, nothing changes. Maybe the diplomatic wording or jargon, they may be differing, but the concept is still the same. So if someone sees you can demonstrate that you can put up an event, then you'll be considered for that opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Brighton. On all the three questions merged up together.
I have good news for her. I've done about 8 roles. Yeah, there are about 8, 9 in 5 organizations, and none of the roles I was qualified for. It started even from the very starting point. Even today, the role I hold, I work with people who have 20 plus years of experience, and I'm not intimidated. But it tied to something I've said before here, and maybe also tied to the person who was asking about cross-industry movements. The first question, if I'm the one seated where you are, is, can I get the job done? Can I genuinely get the job done? So do I have the competence and such? And I mentioned, you also give yourself latitude to learn. And I remember mentioning here is, if I look at a role and 70% of what is expected I can give, then I'm going to apply for it. That's the first thing. And then, so that could be from competence, qualifications, whatever that is. Years of experience behind the tent is a different conversation when you come to the interview. Then the other thing is to say, be audacious. Just apply. I mean, let the problem be for the recruiter to decide whether you're qualifying or not. But don't disqualify yourself up front. And I've mentioned all the roles I've held, none of it I've ever been qualified for. But I was audacious. I knew I could also learn on the job, but from my own gauging, I could tell I can get this job done, or at least 70% of it I can move. And then I can leverage on the internet, relationships, and everything else to cover up the deficit. So that's the first, that's what I wanted to tell you. So go ahead, apply. Probably you're going to get it. I pray so. And then on the same concept of for cross-industry. So generally for every role, so you have like a matrix. So you have industry knowledge, and then you have domain expertise. Domain expertise is, say you are a finance person. Now there are different nuances across industries, but finance is finance. Assets are assets, liabilities are liabilities, right? Assets goes to capital plus liability or minus. Go figure. But that's the concept. So if it's a role that you have the domain expertise to deliver, whichever industry that is, don't disqualify yourself. That's that. Then on the, there are, of course, there are roles that are very specific, that they want people who have experience in that industry. Others would express and say, if you have that industry experience, you have an added advantage. Now, the way I usually look at it is, if I don't have expertise in that industry, but have domain expertise to get the job done in my field, and here you've said just added advantage, I'll apply. Maybe there are people who've worked in that industry who do not have the depth I have on this side. So in the grander scheme of things in that basket, this added advantage will not outweigh my whole basket. So I'll still go for it again. Look at it today. Peter Dego, the CEO of Safaricom, he's not a telco guy. He was working in Diageo. He was selling beer. And he's leading telco. Now you can imagine if you're just a finance guy in a finance industry, or you're moving from, say, telco to banking. Again, principle, do not reject yourself, do not self-sabotage. If you can deliver that job, at least 70%, just go for it. Be audacious. Then handle the rest of the other things when you're there. Of course, when you go for the interview, you have to know a thing or two about the industry, right? If it's finance, if it's banking, they sell credit, payments, etc. You have a thing or two that you can throw them around during the interview. Okay, not throw, but, you understand the language. But you have to also know, and that's a principle I apply. When I go for a role, I'll be very clear that these are my strengths. This is an area that I may not be sufficient in that role. So I have to be very cognizant of that. So what I would do is, I would make sure I amplify my strengths on that interview. Let it become the problem of the recruiter to decide, so this person is really good in this thing, but they've not worked in this industry. But then this person who has worked in this industry, but not as good in it like this guy, let that become their problem, not yours. So that's what I make sure that my strengths I amplify and make sure that you will hear it and hear it very well. Now on this side where I have deficit, what I tend to do is there's democratization of knowledge, information, internet, and all those other things. Make sure you understand what is needed there. When you're showing up in that conversation, that interview, be able to demonstrate, yes, I've not worked in a maritime industry. But if you're looking at solving this problem, that problem, as much as it is unique in that industry, but the fundamental principles of solving that problem still hold. And I have this competence to solve that. Yes, I may have to learn a thing or two in terms of what that industry requires, but I should be able to demonstrate that. And that's what I make sure I do. Is I have this deficit, but then how do I demonstrate that this deficit is covered by the competence or the experience or the skill set that I have, so that, again, I am not going to be the one to reject myself. Let it become the problem, the recruiter, to decide what they are going to do with what I've given them.
Thank you. Angie, your thoughts?
Oh, so good. So good. We can send the tithes and offerings in that direction.
I'll give a pay bill number.
I really like that. There was a question on blind applications and blind emails. And I think there's, again, we said, shoot your shot. Be audacious. You can do it. You can send the blind. The worst that they can do is either ignore or say no. But I think it is less about just sending an email. It's that if perchance, peradventure, somebody actually opens this email, have I given it my best foot forward? Have I done my best pitch in life? And it's not a warrior story, because I can tell you, my inbox has very many emails of people saying, oh, help, I am struggling with this, my family has this, please just give me a job, any kind of job. Already, we're starting on the wrong foot. Picture yourself as, like I've sent this email and the CEO has actually opened, or the director has just, for some reason, the other day they were the ones who were checking their email or the recruiting email, and they were like, okay, I wonder who is this? And it could be the opportunity that God has given you, but you have done it half-heartedly. So if you're sending blind emails, think about just what Brighton has spoken about. What does this organization do? Even if, don't send what do you call it, a generic cover letter, a generic CV. Just be very specific. My name is so-and-so, for example, like in the email, and this is my background. This is a problem I want to solve for you. This is the value I feel. Could I have 10 minutes of your time, for a conversation? I'm available for an email or call. This is what I want to do. Because also people don't want their time wasted. I don't want to just sit with anybody who thinks they can do something for the organization. If you can convince me in that email or that application that you are worth having a conversation with, then it's likely to be able to convert. For the people who, and I think a lot has been said with regards to moving from one industry to the next, or to a different career path, or if you don't have enough experience, I think that there are things, there's the technical skills and the technical experience, but there are things we call transferable skills. I have not done this thing in your industry or in your organization, but the principle is the same. Right? Like, for example, maybe I have been managing events. When you're managing, and that's the place where, just taking a step back, when you're trying to understand your own value so you can pitch yourself or you can communicate, you need to look at everything you have done in terms of what is this? Yes, I have a marketing degree. It's not just about the degree or where I got it from. This marketing degree means that I can do X for you, means that I can give you this value. So you move it from being, I have a marketing degree to, based on the fact, and this is a conversation you're having in yourself, based on the fact that I studied marketing, I now know how to do this and this and this and the other. And that now becomes part of my portfolio of what I am selling, okay? If I have been managing events, for example, when you are an event planner or event organizer, there are a number of things you do that maybe you have never done in an office somewhere, but you have skills with regards to skills in project management. You know how to manage people. You know how to manage budgets. You know how to do expense tracking. All of those. You've never worked corporate, but in the work that you have done, these are skills that you have developed, or these are value areas that you have contributed to. Now, translate those skills into the space. That in this different place, this is what I have been doing. And I see that this role requires somebody who can manage other people. I have managed suppliers from this area and this area. I've been able to supervise teams of 20. You've never done it in the workplace or officially in a corporate setting, but you have done it elsewhere. So look for all the transferable skills that apply to the job that you are trying to get into, whatever it is. It can even be something as random as you are working in HR, and now you just suddenly sense passion for media and communication, right? And maybe you don't have a journalism background, but many people get into it without that. You're just really good at speaking to people and convincing them to buy things or to do things that you get them to do. Communicate the fact that in this space in HR, I had a role where I needed to speak to people regularly. I needed to communicate very serious things in a simple way. And so now I feel like I can be able to speak to your audience in this particular way, and that becomes the entry point, because you're bridging the gap. Because somebody might be thinking, you're in HR, you want to come to broadcast journalism. There's already such a big gap in the mind of the person hearing you. Reduce that gap for them. Help them to see you in that role. Help them to see how it's not such a big deal. It's not such a huge jump. Give them the language and the opportunity to see you in that new opportunity that you're looking for or looking at joining or transferring to.
Wow. I think we've had a good session with a lot of information. Now we are coming to the end of it, and I want us to give closing remarks. And in your closing remarks about just how to move from chasing opportunity to becoming visible enough. As you give your final thoughts and just a closing statement, you can also give an action, 1 or 2 simple actions someone seated here can begin with. And I'll start with you, Brighton. As we close all these, how do I move from chasing opportunities to being visible? What are those actions I can take tonight when I get home?
So I'll say a few things. One, we've all agreed that we have to use LinkedIn, whether we like it or not, right? So go there and write your story, write your value. You've done this, you've held these roles, etc. And there's something I just mentioned. Whatever it is you've done where, and I was giving a basic example of managing these microphones to make sure they work. If you're able, as she's saying, it's a transferable skill. Everything that you've done and you've built competence, make sure that it is available there. Just in case somebody is looking, they will find it there, right? So that becomes the first place. And we already know that there are different tricks to how you make sure that it's visible. Then number 2, and this has been true for me and true from the people I know, don't wait for the time when you need an opportunity to start preparing for it. Prepare long in advance for those opportunities. What that means is start building meaningful relationships long in advance when you do not necessarily need that role. So that when you actually need that role, you're already leveraging on a social capital that you've already built. So start early on. The same thing about skills. So if I know, for example, in the next 2 years, I want to pivot my career towards a particular direction, then I start today. I start learning what do they do. What are the people who are industry leaders and thought leaders in that space? Go to LinkedIn, follow them. They have these communities of practice that they hold. Go to their events. Get to understand what it is that drives them. What are they doing? Where is that industry? What's the new thing around in those conversations? I already begin plugging in those spaces. I make sure that I am readying myself to that. And then I come back and ask, so I have this deficit, then how do I feel it? Do I need to go do a professional certification? What is it and how do I do that? Do I need to volunteer in roles and opportunities so that then I can build some level of expertise in that? Then I go start doing it. Preparation early in advance. It's a critical thing. So you figure out what you want to do. And the other thing, just be curious. It has never hurt anyone being curious. Curious means, you bump into some random information about animals, learn. You get, eventually all these things, from what I've seen, is there comes a point where all those skill sets converge. You have to solve a problem that requires you to be a risk person, an events planner or project manager, that other skill set you've built from all the different things that you've done. So do that. And then the last thing, because it was parting shots, yeah? be the person that people can trust. And I cannot overemphasize that. And I've seen it in church spaces particularly. And I remember there was this conversation we were in, which was like this. It was Camp Christian community, but also professional community. And people were just expressing dissatisfaction with the mediocre and the mediocrity that Christians portray, because they resign to, if it is mine, God will let it happen. Imagine, I don't need to do nothing, God will just drop it from heaven. That mediocrity. I've told you, if I have a role and I have a sibling that was looking for a job, and probably I'm the one who is supporting them, but I cannot trust them for that role, I'll not give them that opportunity. And that is true for all the relationships and the networks that you have. So make sure you are someone that people can trust to get their work done. Because yes, your competence can get you entry into that door, but that reputation has to hold you through. People need to know they can trust you. And if I can trust you in just managing these microphones, probably I can trust you in running an event. And if I can trust you in running an event, I can trust you in running a company. So those are things you can actually build and do.
Thank you. Stanley, final thoughts. And that thing someone can do tonight.
Thank you. First thing that you can do tonight, I gave that website. Please look at it. It is app.unv.org. Visit that, you'll find a lot of information, and it's a stepping stone to the system. Second, audit your online or digital footprint. All right? I have a personal friend who lost his job with the CNN for a post he did when he was 15 years. You can check that. It's in the socials. He lost that job simply because someone looked for what he's been doing online. So whatever you're doing online, they say internet never forgets. So make sure that you audit your digital footprint. Even the US right now, whatever they're doing is they're going to check your socials before they grant you visa. So check on that. The other thing, as alluded by my co-panelist Brighton said, is that please create a brand that people can trust. And this comes with referrals. Someone will refer, and a referral is simply saying, I've built trust, and I can trust this person, that's why I'm referring. So it's a name, it's my name putting on the line for you to deliver. So please make sure that you prove that right, that you deliver on whatever assignment that you're given from a referral. The other thing that I will say is that create those networks. It is from those networks that you'll get value, you will grow yourself, you will get business. So make sure that you attend the conferences, you volunteer, you offer yourself for services. That is when someone can realize and notice you. Okay, you can do this, you can do that. So because they can already see you are demonstrating it. You understand? The last is you excel in what you do. And this, I'm picking it from a friend and a mentor called Ben Odette. He says, for you to worship God, you have to excel, all right? And where do you excel? It's where you spend a lot of your time. And where do you spend a lot of your time? Almost 80 to 90% is at work. Whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're working in an organization, make sure you excel. And again, this also, I'll pick it from Obama. Make sure whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability. Someone will notice whether they like it. Maybe your line manager is not noticing it. Maybe someone else is noticing it. So do and do it well. All right?
Thank you. Angie.
Yeah, I think action points. Two of them that I have. One is to draw up your own value portfolio. We said from the beginning that many times you have a CV that does not reflect the value that you're offering. You go to interviews, you can't communicate that value. Somebody asks you, so what do you do? Or what is it that you are engaged in? But you flounder. Either you give us your title, you say this organization, but you're not clear about what value you bring in different spaces. So my challenge to you would be take some time for yourself. One of the things that we have been robbed of in the recent, I'd say like 10 years, is the ability to sit quietly with ourselves just to reflect. There's always something on, there's always something we're watching, but very few people actually take time to reflect and sit with themselves and see, okay, so what am I about? So I would challenge you just to do that. Sit with yourself and craft your value portfolio based on certain things, based on the education I've had, the training and certifications, the places I've worked, the things I've done, the volunteering opportunities, maybe my giftings and whatever else it is. What is it that each of these things have contributed to the unique value that I can offer? And that's how you sort of craft your value portfolio. Why this helps is because, again, it will help you communicate, but also remember, when you're applying for different roles, they're usually slightly different, right? In some roles, they'll want a bit more of this. If you already have this value portfolio, you know, I remember, I'm not trying to struggle to think, can I do that? I already know in my value portfolio, think about it like a toolbox. I can pick out these 3 tools and they'll be appropriate for this particular task. So that's number 1. Just before the end of the month, challenge yourself. I'll set aside 2-3 hours, an afternoon here, an evening there, to just sit and craft my value portfolio for yourself so that you can be able to now start working on the other places where you'll communicate it. I think the second thing is to do an assessment or an audit of your network. Again, like I said, your network is wider than you think. You are connected to more people and to more spaces that can be able to advocate for you and be able to give you your next opportunity. Sit and do that network audit, because sometimes we're just running, constantly just running over the next thing. I want to apply here, I want to do this one, but you're not pausing to think through, I could do this a lot smarter. I could do this a lot faster if I spoke to these different people. So do that network audit, again, for yourself. And then begin to think, okay, so now that I know that I have these people in my space, how do I begin to engage them? How do I be in the same spaces where I can be able to learn things from them, be able to offer them value, and then be able to move our relationship, whatever the dynamic is now, to the next level. I think that's what I'd say as take-homes. In terms of visibility, I don't know if I can add anything beyond just that being trustworthy and being excellent at what you do. Wherever you are, we're not waiting to get somewhere so that we can be a different kind of person. If you're not trustworthy in the small things, you will not be trustworthy in the big things. If you are not a team player right where you are, and it can even be something really small, in your estate where you live, or in the apartment you live, or in the house where you live, you are the one who is least collaborative. You're always anti-people's ideas. It is unlikely that that is going to be different wherever else you go. You're always the one, the pessimist. You're the devil's advocate, and not in the positive way of trying to come up with good ideas. Just be a good steward of the opportunities that God has already given you, wherever they are, however big, however small. You can be in a place and feel like, I was made for more. I need to be doing this. But right now, I am here. Be excellent and steward that well, because God rewards that stewardship in wherever we are. Yeah.
Wow. I think we've had a very good session. I think my take home is be excellent, be truthful, be trustworthy, rather. Be trustworthy where you are and do your best. And I think for me, with all I've had, Colossians 3:23, in everything you do, do as if you're doing for the Lord. I think we can appreciate our panel. They have poured out so much into us. Have we enjoyed the session? Have you enjoyed the session? You've gotten your take-homes? Yes, so thank you very much. I will allow you to take a break and have a seat even as I invite our HOD, who will be doing any announcements we have, and also just closing up the session for us. So thank you very much. I've been your moderator. My name is Beth, and I do hope that we keep interacting and we all grow and be shortlisted somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Beth. And I hope you really enjoyed the session and you have some take-homes and things that we can action on, even from today. So I'll just bring us a few announcements. One, do we have first-time visitors? First-time visitors, this is your first session. Let's welcome them with a warm clap. Yeah, so first-time visitors, just right after the session, you'll meet here. Edith, where is Edith? Yeah, so that's the lady that you'll meet here just right after the session so that we can give you a welcome to the fellowship as well as a few orientation on how you can join the fellowship. Secondly, our next event, or rather our next session, will bring in more details concerning that. But then also in the month of July, we have a Northern Region inter-YP monthly event. So we will we'll be giving you more details on what that will be. So we'll send in the poster as soon as end of this month. So keep an eye on that. And then lastly, would like to invite Brenda. Where's Brenda? I would like to invite you. Yes. Yeah, so what we'll be doing, we have different teams in the Young Professionals Fellowship where we'll be inviting different people to serve in. So today we'll have the digital team who can tell us what they do and then also what they're looking for in terms of capital. Yeah.
Praise God. Praise God again. Okay, this is an ambush, but a good ambush. Well, we are, by God's grace, I am Brenda. And I lead the digital team here at YP, which